Namaskar. Friends, we were waiting for a very important session with a very important poet for whom I talked to you in the morning, Koon Woon from Seattle, America. The Seattle, very cold place in America, and he got up early 6 o'clock to talk to us. And somehow there was a confusion for the time, so I thought it is 7:30 is 7 o'clock in Seattle, but it was very early. So now we are starting. We have started again this talk. This talk is very important because you are talking to a poet, a person who has fight, who has fought with a very big, difficult disease with the help of poetry. In 60s, when young Koon Woon came from China to America to study mathematics and philosophy, very difficult subjects. But after some time, he found that he has some kind of disease which is not easy, and very difficult for the person who suffers. But Koon Woon has struggled. He has used medicine, but same time he has used his own way of struggling or of fighting with that disease. That is, somebody is saying, Kavita Mathur is saying that it is snowing heavily in Seattle. Okay, so that is still he is with us. So how he handle his problem with the poetry? I use his letter. He sent me letter in almost a few years back, I think 2018, about his disease when I was planning to write this book. And that letter tells me everything about, yes, he also bought it. So I was talking about his disease, his problems, and his overcoming. So Koon Woon, welcome to you in Kritya. We were waiting for you for a long time. Then we cancel it, and then we are doing again. Welcome to you. I am sorry for my mistake, but I am sure that you will enjoy this talk, and our audience will also enjoy this talk. I know that it is not enjoy is not a good word, but yes, I understand that how it is difficult and how it will give the life to many people. So welcome, Koon Woon. Please talk to us about.
Thank you. I began to have problems in my early 20s while I was a student in philosophy and mathematics. I did not understand what was happening to me. I would get confusion. I would get depressions. I would get very anxious. And later on, I started to get paranoid, afraid of nothing in particular. And then actually, that caused me so many problems with my family and with society that I became homeless. And I was causing difficulties in society that the police had to bring me to a mental hospital. It was after several months there that I realized I had mental illness. Then after I was released from the mental hospital, I began treatment with a psychiatrist with medication. But that would just hold me from preventing me from doing very bad things, but I'm still unable to manage myself. So I turned to poetry as a way to focus on my feelings and deal with my difficult feelings and my moods which were very difficult to handle. The depressions, anxiety, paranoia. And after writing poetry for several years, uh, I was able to get more and more in touch my own feelings. Then I went back to school and I studied poetry, and that has helped me tremendously to recover my abilities. Um, so I began to use poetry myself to help my friends who has mental illness, and I work with them to write poems, to study poetry, and eventually I started a publishing house called Goldfish Press, which I publish books by my friends and by other people. Now is a press in Seattle, which we publish not only poetry but also other kinds of writing, such as playwriting, and memoirs, and even nonfiction. And recently, one of our books won a prize, the Pen Oakland Prize, which is a national award given to a woman who's 83 years old. So that was her first major recognition for her many, many decades of writing poetry, which made us very proud and which made her very happy also. Yes. I cannot hear.
Not mute, unmute. Yeah. How can you decide that poetry will help you? Because did you writing before that disease?
Well, when I was in high school, I was the chairman of my literary club in high school. However, I did not do too much writing because I went to study mathematics and philosophy, so that I let that idle in the back burner for many, many years. It was not until I became mentally ill that I used poetry, writing in particular, poetry, to help me get get in touch with my feelings. So that was the main point: get in touch with how I really feel inside, and not my symptoms, but how I really feel as a person, and what was really important to me. Uh, how to make a come back to reality with the rest of the people, and in the process, learn the psychology to help me grow as a person and help me help my friends who have the similar or the same problem as I did.
It means I think your Facebook is open. So it means the poetry, you were not writing poetry before as you, as other science, other arts students. You were interested in writing poetry, but you were the student of mathematics and philosophy. So you were not in poetry completely. But when you started feeling this problem, this disease, you thought of writing poetry. So, what were you thinking? What were you facing actually?
Well, I just began to write notes to myself. Today I feel bad. I wonder what would make me feel better. And then today I feel angry or anxious. What is causing me a problem? So I just write down these feelings I have. And it could be very simple things like today I think I'll take a walk. After a while, after a long time, some things come to me. I said, gee, I've never seen a tree as green as this before. The grass as nice as this before. Then I said, it sounds good. Why don't I write more of that? So I write more of that. Then I say, how do I become a friend to somebody? Then I say, well, to be a friend to somebody, you have to be a friend to yourself. You have to be a friend to everybody as your friend to yourself. So I would have these insights, and I write them down. In it was several years before I had a first published poem. That was the poem Goldfish, which you put into this book here.
Yeah, I know this, Suha. That is what I feel with the goldfish. Because I feel when I read the goldfish, I feel that a fish which is inside a glass jar, fish could see across the jar, and she could feel that, oh, this whole room where the jar is kept, it belonged to her, but it does not belong to her. She is still in the jar, and that makes her suffocating. And that's what I feel, that that is the disease what bipolar is called, uh, is meant. I think this that's what people feel. Now my question is that mostly we writers or we artists have such kind of mood swings. We are sometimes very angry due to some social problems, sometimes family problems, sometimes political problems. Now, how can we differentiate that what is my personal problem and what is my health problem?
Well, I think many times we project our own problems into the world. If I feel depressed, the world is a bad place to be. The people who are laughing and playing, they're just acting. It's not real. It's not true. The inside is very sad. Or the world is a very bad place because people kill each other, people take advantage of each other, beat the family, beat the wives, hit the kids. They take somebody else's money, and that's because we project our sadness, our inner sadness, onto the world. And sometimes it's the other way around, that the world is in turmoil, and we sense this turmoil, and we say, there's something wrong with me. I introject the badness of the world into myself. So I don't realize that the world is causing me to feel this way, but I think it's self-generated. But actually, there's a dialectical relationship. I cause the world a certain way, the world causes me to be a certain way.
So this is actually a common thing, that we feel that sometimes we feel that world is very bad for us and it is not doing what it should do with us. But the same time, um it means that one person, if you have a more and more such kind of feeling, you should go uh, for a medical help. But with medical help, another kind of therapies can also work. For you, poetry work because you are a philosopher. For someone else, something else will work. So what do you suggest?
Uh, I think the most important thing is the medicine, which calms a person down. And then the next most important thing is insight. The person has to have understanding of himself, that that is not caused by, that his internal states is the problem and not the external states, or that his thoughts are peculiar to himself and not of the world in general. And that insight is very difficult to achieve. So a lot of people, they think it's caused by the devil, or they're punished by God, or some political dark forces are after them. So they blame it on something which is not the true cause of the illness. In most cases, the causes is genetic and biochemical. In the other cases, it's psychological because they suffered trauma or abuse when they're young, or came back from the war. They have these kinds of bad experiences. So the person needs to have come to some understanding of himself, which many writers do get when they write a lot. They begin to look deeper into society, deeper into themselves, and deeper into philosophy in history. and how things have become the way they are. Yeah.
I feel because you said that you have written in your that you were the student of mathematics and philosophy. Both are fantastic because both are philosophical. Mathematics is also philosophical, and philosophy also give you the philosophy life, the philosophy or the light for the life. So in that case, I feel that that help you because your background was also very strong, and that help you. So this is very nice. I understand. So what were your early poems? Because you took almost 10-15 years to publish your first book and which got award. That is also in America. And which is very difficult because getting award, such kind of award in the USA, because you were coming from another country, far from East.
Well, I surprised myself because uh, it took me. I started writing poetry, published my first poem, age 35, and I did not get my first book published until I was 48 years old. So that took what 13 years. And my second book was published another 15 years later. So it takes me a long time to write poems in a book, and I undergo changes in that time, and new insights come to me in that time, and new techniques of writing poetry come to me in that time. So I think the best poetry takes time to write, takes time to think about, and you have to feel the poem inside, feel it through from its inception to its finish. And it's like meeting someone, becoming friends with that someone over time, and get to really know them and to know yourself and to know the world. A lot of my poems are written about the memories in China as a little boy, when I was carefree, when I didn't have these kinds of problems, when my family was good to me, I was good to them, and I had many friends and so on. But once I became mentally ill, a lot of my friends were afraid of me. They didn't want to be with me. They think I was a drag on them. I was cause them, embarrassment. So more and more I was isolated. But through writing poetry, having a few friends who write poetry, over time, I began to extend my circle of friends. And then when I begin to publish poetry, people begin to know that I have something to say, that I come from a section of society where that kind of knowledge only can come from some person who has experienced that kind of knowledge. And the doctors, the psychiatrists, they help me understand that I'm not the only one who suffers that kind of illness. That it's a it's a medical problem, it's a society problem, psychological problem, and a family problem. The many parameters to this illness. Also, poetry can deal with all those things and more.
Yeah, that is.
And the one thing I forgot to mention, poetry gives you a sense of beauty, what is right about the world, what is beautiful in the world, and what is just in the world, what we would like to see as ideals in the world.
That is what you mentioned. Sorry, your what you mentioned was little bit very true in India also. When you have some kind of disease, especially your emotions or with your physics also, with suppose you have some physical problem, people want to run away from you, even for your relatives, from your family. They don't want to support, and this especially for the mental situation, it is very very difficult in India also. So I feel that how what happened and how it happened to you, but at that time you were writing poetry yourself, And as you said that, uh, it's like Upanishads in Indian philosophy. They talk about many things: emotions, mental, spiritual, and soul. So when your mind is hurt, your soul is open. So yeah, so your soul was actually getting the more purity, and that is why you were writing the best poetry. Yeah, please. Uh,
Yes, what was happening was that the mental illness does not destroy your most inner self. Uh, the part is really you, uh, like you say, the soul. Uh, it's the deepest part of a person that he, you know, like we can make motions, and that's what it looks like mental illness to other people. But when we're quiet, they look into us. That is the real us, not what we seem to be doing, but who we actually are. How we really feel about that person as a person. How we feel about the tree as a tree. How do we accept things the way they really are, and and forget about our sense of control, our sense of damage, or even our sense to make them better, because we have to accept the world first. And then, secondly, once we accept the world, we can see how it works in its own nature, and we can help it to work the way it wants to work, but we cannot force a way to make it work. That is a major problem because people have time. Time is very urgent to a lot of people, so they want to force things to happen. And the mental illness is a very intractable, very difficult problem. So it takes many years to recover. It takes many treatment methods and the different methods to treat different people. So the psychiatrists, the doctors, the medicine, the therapists, the family, the neighbors, they all have to understand, you know, it is not only the person who's suffering, but all those around him who loves him, who cares about him. It also feels a helpless feeling when they cannot help him. So we have to elevate this problem to be a communal problem, a society problem, even a philosophical problem. How we can help other people, how to be make people as good as ourselves. And now I have gained a little bit of knowledge. I want to share this knowledge with my friends who also have mentally ill, and I can share this with my poetry friends who want to become better people, writing better poetry.
now we read. I think your mic. Now we listen your poetry, a few poetry. Then we will talk about the second uh, thing about your Taoism and philosophy. So you please read your poetry.
You want me to read the poem?
Yeah, you read one, two, three, any number of poem because you're writing in English, no?
Okay.
So there is no need of translation. Please.
Okay. The first poem in this second book of mine, Water Chasing Water, is called Coming of the Days, which is a very optimistic poem written when I was coming out of my mental illness. Coming of the days. Perfect weather in the onset of autumn, with maples turning 3 or 4 shades. The luxury of the sun slanting while the city is so tourist heavy, with vine ripe grapes bunching as in families, and the wine on table telling full and round stories. And so I asked myself, will I ever go to Paris and sit at a sidewalk cafe and tune my poetry as I would a guitar? Whatever the tune, the earth's beginning to spin, wheat and apple heavy for a golden harvest, then toward winter. Because I because I came to poetry kind of late in life, so it took me a long time to harvest, to reap the the fruits of this product, of this effort. I mean, so it took me a long time to grow in. I was a mature person, 48 years old when my first book was published. So so my maturity was kind of late, but it's still worth it. It still made me a better person. It still made me proud of myself to have done this.
Please read some more poems.
Okay. This one is called Two Persimmons Side by Side. Persimmons are a fruit that is kind of like orange to red and is sweet. Two persimmons side by side. Green was the lily pad on which sat the frog. In crimson was the light through an orange sky. Things will be all right this night and other nights. I'm not the most gifted, nor am I the most favored. Yet I too want to flee into your arms enamored. I have a twin in a metropolis, high in a tower, half buried in the chatter calculating machines. He never looks back at the village, where his brother redigs another ditch. He sighs his long, slender fingers that might have caressed the violin. Somewhere in the world, two persimmons sit side by side on a shelf, ripening quietly through the quiet days. On some day or some month, all guitars will weep, and the persimmons' red hues will deepen and deepen. For every brother, there is a brother. For every persimmon, there is another persimmon. But for every boy, is there a girl? And for every girl, is there a promised world? No one knows except the sky crimson in the red, moist persimmons. So we don't know when we'll meet a loved one. We don't know when we get along. We don't know when they come, and we don't know how we get along. But for every boy, is there going to be a girl? And for every girl, it's like to be the world that she wants, that she needs. We don't know, except what's the sky and the persimmons, nature and our fate, I guess. So, we're
Yeah.
humble. We're humble things. We cannot control our future.
Uh, I eat this specimen fruit in China when I was in China, and I loved it.
Yeah.
It dropped from the tree and I ate, and then my host has to tell me that don't eat so much, it will spoil your stomach. But it is fantastic fruit, persimmon fruit. And then they gave me dry fruit, but the fresh fruit was beautiful. Actually, I will love to have this poem because I love that fruit very much. And in India, we don't get that fruit. So it's a wonderful poetry. And what I feel that when you are writing poetry while talking to you, you are most honest to yourself. And that time, you are honest to your readers also, and that is why these poems reaches to your reader. So I think you agree with it.
Yes, I try to be honest. Well, the way to grow is you have to be, candidly about your own self. You have to, I have to admit to myself what my problems are before I can solve them. I have to be very, very careful to analyze myself. I could deny myself. I could deny that I have any problem. And that I would never get better. I never get well unless I realize I have a problem. I could tell you when I was first realized I had a serious problem. I was at age 28. I said, I can only deal one difficult problem at a time. That's mental illness. So I have to quit my other problems like gambling, drinking, taking drugs, being a bad person. So I had to quit those problems. And that I just dealt with mental problems, and it still took me 20, 30 years to overcome all the aspects of mental illness. And I'm still dealing with every day. I'm still have to recognize it's always in the background that I have to be careful and watchful and not let it, come from behind me and take me by surprise, but always be aware that my feelings may not register what's really out there, what's really true. Uh, like this one here, this one's about recognizing the burden of becoming sane and remaining a sane person. It's called the burden of sanity. I am talking to myself, really, as the haze hovers over the freeway, piles and sediments pounding, the crack of light of the far hills, nearby raindrops on my window, and it's the clanking and otherwise silence. And in a couple of hours, the city will dim and light fall, and my self-enveloping will have begun. I went to the new mental health center, but the burden of sanity is on me. I see the sun is trying desperately to come out and reclaim this rain. The industry outside is mindless. The sports dome will be imploded, and another stadium will be built in its place. This isn't as bad, however, as knocking down a wall for a single brick. And bless me, there's more light. The sky cracks another crevice, and the light is white gold. I'm talking to myself, really, for my teacher has said, a writer leaves the business of living to others. I have no business, but I try not to waste time. And I have the second bowl of hot beef potato soup, and music is contained in my room, heated as a bastion against the cold and indifference of editors, publishers, and readers of my writing. And so I'm talking to myself, really. The sky now keeps a C shape of white brilliance. The pounding is in reprieve, but not a clicking. I type to stall the construction of mindlessness. Yes, to stall and to talk to myself. For I went to the mental health center today, and the burden of sanity is on me. So what I'm saying in this poem is we do have a responsibility to ourselves and to society to be as sane as possible, to avoid mental illness of any kind, even like drunkenness or taking drugs or, yes, for a lot of things that we should avoid doing just to remain our best self as best as we can. Yeah.
Yeah, this is I feel that very important thing that in place of means it is better to accept your problem, and once you accept your problem will disappear. Until you are not until you're accepting, you will not face the world, because you will always feel that what they will think of me. And that is how most of the young people, when they get into problem, they go for the drugs, they go for different kind of things. And in India, actually, a kind of mentality that they feel that every poet is supposed to drink. But I feel that that is not important, because poetry does not need the drinking. Poetry needs your heart and soul. I read that you follow the Taoism. I didn't learn much, but I am also very much impressed by him. So, what did you learn from Taoism, and what it impact your poetry?
The first thing, the Tao Te Ching, the book of Taoism says, the Tao that can be told is not the Tao. The way that can be said is not the way. The Tao is darkness upon darkness, mystery within mystery. And the only way to know it is to accept nature for what it is, and to know that it's forever beyond words, beyond articulation, between human understanding. But we have to look deep into it and read the text of the Tao Te Ching carefully, because I read it every year, study from cover to cover, and each time I read it, something new would come to me. And a lot of my poetry comes from there, because the poems are very short, just one page, but they have very, very complex, very many deeper levels of meaning. So, so I try to write poetry that have multiplicities, that can mean different things to different people, and it can mean different things at different times when you read it. So that's the source. In the Taoism, it's even applied to the martial arts, Tai Chi. Tai Chi, the very soft form of movement, is they say, do not confront force with force, but to deflect 1,000 pounds or 4 ounces. Move it away from yourself. Work around it. Move it away. And so nature is not something that is against us. We have to live within nature, to work with it. It's in us. The Tao is in everything, in in us also. And only by following the Tao, we live the life that was intended for us, good or bad. And it's a consolation, because eventually, everybody dies. Uh, I myself don't know about reincarnation. I don't know that at this point, but if that happens, it'd be nice. But I know at this point that if I followed it down, life would be easier. And they said, like, it's like water. The water is very soft. It has no shape of its own. It fills the container which it fits in, but it can erode the hardest rocks. It can overcome hardest rocks. It can fill up an ocean. It can drown anyone. It can drown villages, cities, anything. So it's the most powerful, yet it's the most useful, because we need water every day to wash, to bathe, to drink, to keep it alive. So water is like the Tao. The Tao is like water. Yeah. So it's essential. It's friendly, yet it can be very dangerous and harmful. It can be very powerful, as well as be very, very kind to us.
How did you manage in this corona? How did you manage in this corona time?
Discover what?
How did you manage in corona time, this time, corona time?
Corona time? You,
Means the present day's problem, corona. This.
the COVID, the
Uh-huh,
coronavirus.
uh-huh,
I had my
uh-huh,
first shot the other day, and I'm going to
mhm,
get another shot in March, so that
mhm.
hopefully that will protect me to some degree. But I stay home most of the time. I talk to friends on the phone, on the internet, and email. So so I write at home, but I have a press at home. I do work for my Goldfish press. Uh, so I'm reading, studying. Yeah. Mhm.
Hey, as a writer, as a poet, I feel that this was very enriching for me. I did not write much poetry. I didn't feel like writing poetry at this time, because some days were very painful, not for myself. When I see the hungry people on the road, when I see the people are walking miles and miles to return back to their home, when I see that people lost their job, when I see the many difficult things, that I didn't feel like writing poetry, because I don't believe in the poetry which comes out of others' pain. But in this time, I could meet many, many poets, many writers, many artists, and which from each and every person I learned. So my most of the evenings were very good, very nice, and I feel that I enjoyed this time in another way because I utilized this time, because this was given, this pain was given from society, from nature, so it was not my fault, but I use in it that way. So of course your kaya press might have helped you a lot. So please read some more poems.
Okay, this one is a nice, maybe sort of a love poem. In your heart, the bird builds a nest. Home is where your heart is, my dear. My countertops, this array of cups and saucers, are conspiring with you, plotting a coup simply because they don't like a lone man's furnishings. Each time you grace my room, my dear, you say, buy more steak and butter and less typing paper. The sponges in dish soap you bring order into my life. Just yesterday, I left living to the others, but as I write this, the four walls are a comfort, and on each wall I screw in a hook on which to hang my hat or coat, my identity as a writer. Now it is more or less real, my dear, that I am a writer, because the revolution you engineer is complete. My meaning now lies in the familiar. The dishes are on the rack, and I feel my feet, and I walk my feet, and I know the path. I walk the path to you, my dear, to you.
This is actually a very beautiful line, that my in your heart my love is making nest. It's a beautiful, very soft line, beautiful line. It's a beautiful poem, which it could be a love poem. At the same time, it is talking about your many other things. So
Mhm.
now what you want to say, what you want to talk about, because I asked many questions to you. What you want to say?
Well, I think we all have different roles in life. The best thing to do is to, you know, do what you can, what you like to do. Um, However, we all have to take in consideration other people, uh, what they like to do. We should not be extremists one way or the other, but we should not force our will onto the world. And that's my Taoist belief that what's what's easiest is probably what's natural. What's natural is what's easiest. Like I wanted to be a mathematician and a philosopher, but that was, that didn't happen for me. Maybe I was not meant to be that. It would have been a very terrible struggle to be a mathematician and a philosopher because it would have been impossible with mental illness. So I have to be more kind to myself. I have to do what I can and accept myself for what I can do and accept myself for being another child of the universe itself. Uh, Not more favored or less favored than anyone else, but have a right to be here like anyone else, like anything else in the universe. What if the universe, however it came about, was as created or was always there? We, we try to discover it, but we also have to know our limitations. Maybe some things will be forever unknown to us, no matter how we try to understand it. Maybe some things are better not to be understood completely because some things we understand have come to destroy us, like atomic physics has come to destroy us. Like the gunpowder, that came from China, but has destroyed many of us. So that's no good. It should stay as firecrackers, not gunpowder. I can. I can.
Sorry. I'm very sorry. I have to repeat everything. I'm very sorry. Somebody asked me that why, when somebody is in pain, we should give the voice. But poetry is not only to way to give the voice. It looks very terrible and horrible that at night few laborers died on the railway train, and next morning in Facebook, you uh, you find 1,000 poetry on that death. And I feel that, do we celebrate their death? That at that time when people are in pain, our duty is to help them physically or mentally or in economically.
Mhm.
Poetry can be written with your memories after
Mhm.
some time,
Mhm.
because because I write my some many poetry after 20 years of my own experience.
Yes.
Like the kite from the girls from the good family do not fly the kite, that
Mhm.
was my childhood memory, but I could write when I was in my mid age. So that
Mhm.
is my reply, Kavita Mathur, your question. But immediate reply to that pain is sometimes not poetic. That's what,
Well,
because yeah, tell me.
I, I think we have different roles in life. The doctors treat pain, nurses treat pain, social workers treat social problems, politicians know how to distribute the wealth among the people, and we do have people create music. Maybe we shouldn't have them. We do have people do poetry. Maybe we shouldn't have. We have people play sports. Maybe we shouldn't have them. I don't know what makes up a society. We have to have a relaxation, but poetry teaches us lessons about life. It's like philosophy, according to Socrates, unexamined life is not worth living. We'd be living like machines that wouldn't have a thoughts, a heart, a soul. We'd be machines. It's not just a mechanical body. We have more than that. We have the mind, we have the soul, we have the sensibilities, have ideals, you know. So I think there's a room for poetry, especially the poetry that can consult the people, make them feel better when they're in pain. Like a lot of songs come from slavery. They now the root of all most American and British music, the blues, which came from the black slaves and working the cotton fields. And so beauty can rise from anything, from suffering. I have suffered. That's my poetry has some kind of immediacy to them. They have they talk to people. I could just read a lot of books and write the poetry that's in the books, but that will not seem very real to you.
Yeah, that's what I feel, that as your poetry, when you were suffering, you write the poetry in a positive, and that is how you were giving positiveness to yourself, same time to others, and that is how it affect or affect. Otherwise, it is a autobiography or some type of self crying, and self crying is not a philosophically, emotionally accepted thing. So, yeah, this is fantastic. You have given many very, very good ideas. I want to know that which book of Tao you read, because I want to buy that book and read, because I am reading some from some net only. Yes.
Yeah, there's one book, one translation by Jane English and Jia Fu Feng. Uh, I'll send it to you in an email, okay?
Okay, please,
That
because I'm interested in it, and
yeah.
I want to read what because in a YouTube many things are correct, many things are not so correct. And when I was in China, I wanted to learn about it, but the language is a problem barrier there. My good friends also, like Eugian and all, they could not speak a single word of English. So the translation is spoiling the everything. I was there for 1 month in a Leju village as in a residency, and Eugian, you know that you from Unan, he was my host. But I could not. He was talking about Taoism, but I could not understand because he was explaining everything in Chinese, and I was not getting good translation.
Mm.
Uh, so, anything else do you want to say, please?
Well,
Or you?
I'm very happy to be here on the show with you. I hope that, you know, I hope that more people will look into poetry as therapy, and that well, just to themselves, be kind to themselves, read the kind of poetry they like. And maybe after a while they read other kinds of poetry, even though at first it's difficult to understand. But there's a lot of good thoughts, you know, for the ages in poetry. People do not. It's an activity going on as long as it's been language. So it's a vital part of human communication.
Yeah, this is the best thing you said, that one has to kind to own self, and the same time the kind to the nature and whole universe. And I learned that from your Taoism is also that say be natural as nature, or your another what you said, that martial art of uh, China, which says that don't put force against force, try to avoid the force. These are the actually ideas we are getting from different parts of life, and we are utilizing in our life, and the poetry is teaching all these ideas. So do you want to read a poem at last?
Okay, let's see. Oh, okay. You said about choice. This poem is about choice. If there was a choice, if there was a choice between reading about reality or seeing a touch of thought as braille, the volume of the world funnels in through a gap in the window. The old factories in the industrial distance, the salt of the Bay Air. If there was a choice, I meditate on plum blossoms. No, I wouldn't view flowers on horseback, nor would I eavesdrop on the crescendo of song and dance behind the imperial door. If there was a choice, I choose to be poor, unnoticed, unrewarded, unfettered by ropes of language, social mores. No, if there was a choice, I would not obey the rules of pickpockets, of dog-meat vendors, paperback writers, insurance salesmen, tavern bouncers. I just amble, stare at the cracks of sidewalks, and envision a dandelion shooting through, yellow and fine, or imagine a blackberry vine in the inner city, growing okay without city rain. Heaven's pennies it abstains from taking. If I had some choice, I have a morsel of rice and some tea, hot or with ice. And from beggar to king, if the choice was really mine, I simply choose to be kind.
Wow. This is a wonderful poem. I wish I could translate it. You please send me this poem. So my choice. And if you and one two three lines I love very much. If I have a choice, I want to be a poor. And then last line, that if I have a choice, I want to be kind. Yes, I miss that kindness in myself. Sometimes I feel that sometimes I'm not kind to many people around me due to my own
That's because
my
you're too much an idealist. That's why.
maybe maybe I want to be very good, and when I feel that I feel very bad when I get anger, and I get anger so very quickly, or I say bad words or angry words to someone. I feel really sad afterward. So
Yeah,
that's
I
yeah.
think maybe have too much on your hands to do, your impatience comes on rush, not enough time to do everything. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, that is also one thing, that when many things are in your hand to do that, then you can really become very
That's,
impatient.
that's
Yeah, please. Yeah, yes, you were saying something?
yeah, that's the fault of being an executive person. They have to make decisions quickly. There are many
Mm,
things they have to look after. They have an
mm,
executive position. They have to be like that. Yeah.
mm, mm.
I think you have too many things going on. I mean, not too many, many things going on, and you try to do everything well and right, correctly. So sometimes you cannot do your best, and you get angry. I think, yeah.
True,
But
true.
that happens to everyone. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So it was fantastic, wonderful. Our one guest is from first minute to last minute, Kavita Mathur. Thank you very much, Kavita. So uh, uh, um, it was a fantastic talk to you, though it is not over, but at least I could talk to you because I had talked to you over emails only, not directly. And while doing this work for this poetry therapy, I talk to you on emails. But today it is very nice to listen to you, your philosophy, your ideas, and your hard work and your understanding. So thanks a lot. Thank you again. And I wish I will invite you some other day to Kritya.
that'd be great.
So
That'd be great. I'd be more than happy to come back. Okay.
mm, we have to be very careful for the time. It is my mistake. I thought it is a 12 hours distance only,
Uh,
difference only. So anyway, thank you very much, Koon Woon.
thank you,
Very nice to very nice. And we will meet some other day with a fixed, very good time, which will suit you. You got up so early today in the morning, and I'm sorry to disturb you. So thank you very much. Thanks to
Okay.
all our audience, and thanks to everyone.
Okay. Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye bye.